Hello, my name is host Eric, and I am the host Talking with Famous People. Before we started recording today, Zachary and I were talking a little bit about how intelligence is a particularly touchy subject, and that while we might talk about various people being better at this or better than that or whatever, as soon as you start saying somebody's smarter than somebody else, everybody gets their hackles up in the air. So, uh, instead of discussing that issue directly, because I talked about that a fair amount now, I made another video today about it, but I was thinking, let's talk about how different types are going to be sensitive about their certain things based on probably, I don't know, probably they'd be most bristly about criticism regarding their third function. Because I don't think an INFJ, for example, would be bristly at all if I were to say something critiquing their FE. They just sort of laugh at me, right?
I wouldn't agree with that.
Okay, go
I
ahead.
think for me, it would be probably my SE.
Okay, and Zachary, you indicated that as well, right? You don't like it when people say you're not good at sports.
Well, it's not sports. It's just like anything like mechanical.
Okay.
Or if like okay, for example, a while back I was talking to my father and I brought up the idea of like going to a trade school as opposed to something like psychology or whatever I had before, and he just kind of scoffed at it and like acted like I just had the inability to do something like that, and that was like, I mean, I understand where he's coming from, but it was kind of offensive at the time, you know.
Okay, well, for you, SE is in your 7th slot, so that would make some sense. Hami, your SE is in your 4th slot, so that would make some sense. So it may be individuated in that regard. I think somebody is least likely to feel, I'm not likely to feel particularly threatened about my organizational skills or my cleanliness because, I mean, there's not any hiding it, and it's just something I've had to just sort of accept. It's my sort of announced weakness, right? But that's an easy one to announce. Saying, well, I'm messy is something that, in general, people have been conditioned to accept as acceptable because it manifests so much in space. We can all see it. We have no choice but to accept it as an acceptable part of somebody because somebody we know or somebody we love is going to be messy. Other shortcomings manifest a little bit differently. So, Hami says he's touchy about being critiqued regarding his. When you say SE, do you mean specifically you're handling shit, getting shit done, or do you mean physical stuff specifically?
I don't, for physical stuff, I'm pretty good like at sports, but just being like called weak or being powerless, I guess.
Okay. You don't like being called weak. You mean physically weak, right?
No, like just in general,
Okay.
like
So
not being able to control my situation or basically being powerless
okay, cool.
in a situation.
So you like to feel that your agency is real and others recognize it. JC, how about you?
Yeah.
What do you think you feel a little bit touchy about as far as if you were to relate to a cognitive function, which one gives you the most defensive feelings?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I think it just depends on what's being said and who's saying it.
Can you be louder, please?
Like, it depends on what's being said and who's saying it. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
I can hear you.
That would sound like a okay. So you go.
When's the last time you got pissed off by someone? What was the scenario like?
I don't get pissed off very easily. Like, I don't really get mad at people.
What kind of criticisms do you take least well? Criticisms about your cooking, criticisms about your music, criticisms about your taste in house paint color.
No, none of those would piss me off. 'Cause, like, I don't really get mad at people. Like, I don't really get mad at people. What kind of criticisms do you take least well? Criticisms about your cooking, criticisms about your music, criticisms about your taste in house paint color. No, none of those would piss me off.
Okay.
Wait, what about if someone's like throwing shade at you
Like in what way?
in a negative way to like embarrass you or um, for them to show their dominance over you?
It depends. It depends. Everything. I don't know. It depends. Um, I mean, I guess I don't like to feel not smart. I'm trying to think. Like my third function's TE. I don't like when I feel dumb. Um, but
So if somebody
it's
were
not,
to, I'm sorry. So if somebody were to say like, "Oh, JC, you don't need to worry about this. You probably wouldn't get it," or something like that, then you would feel offended by that.
yeah, I feel offended by that. I,
I think
like,
pretty much
it's
anybody
so-
would feel
it's so
offended
that
by that, though, right? I mean, I'd be.
yeah, everyone would be offended by that.
I think my ears would perk up. Like,
Yeah, me too.
oh boy, we're gonna have a little fight here. This is gonna be fun. Okay, well, cool. So,
What if it's something like a feeling stuff, though, Eric? Would you still get pissed?
um,
Like someone's like talking, they're having some like issues with their, I don't know,
what?
their romantic partner or something. Like let's say Corey is like having issues with his partner or something, and you're like, well, you know, well, maybe I can help out Elizabeth a little bit, and he's like, you wouldn't understand. It's just a partner thing. What would you say to that?
I would probably, well, if I were if I were thinking, if I were in the right mood, I would say something like, to myself, I'd think, okay, he wants, he's erring on the side of privacy, as he often does. You know, even though I'm his best friend and we're I'm as close as anybody other than his family members, there's still a certain distance that comes, or at least not really a distance, but a lack of transparency, right? He doesn't want me to know things about him that don't make him look good, you know, that make him look bad, that he's embarrassed about.
What if he's telling another one of your mutual friends about it, and you come up, join a conversation, and they change topics or something?
Then I might, well, no, I mean, I think I would assume that it was something specific between those two people that he was talking about, and that's why they did that. I don't think I would get my feelings hurt about that. There are some things that I could imagine getting my feelings hurt about. You know, if Corey decided to start uploading videos for some other channel, not his own, right? That would hurt my feelings, I think. If he was like, all of a sudden I decided I want to start uploading videos, I don't want to have my own channel, but there's this other guy's channel who's kind of like you, but not you, and I'm going to upload
Or
with
he
him.
joins the MBTV, starts uploading on the MBTV.
Yeah, right. And he goes joins MTV. That would hurt my feelings for sure. I think it's unlikely to happen. Hopefully, but you know, it would take a certain amount of that. It would take a like something that's almost brazenly intended to slap me in the face for me to be particularly offended on those grounds.
Right.
I'm more likely to be offended if he's challenging some statement I'm making, but then not following that to the end of the chain, right? So it's like if I say, well, look, I think this, and they say we're talking about how we perceive things differently, and that's forming some dispute, right? And he says, well, I see things like this, and I say, well, okay, I agree with you on this and this, but this is the real one that you're talking about that's most important, and I disagree on this one, and here's why, this. You know, I need him to either answer those things or change his mind or something. Otherwise, to me, as my closest friend, you're, in some sense, you're denying me the ability to. You're denying me equality or something, right? Like, I know the truth regardless of your reasoning, and you can't affirm to me that you're okay, that what you're doing is right. It's not possible for you to affirm that to me because you're going to use reasoning, and that's not something that bank's not open. That bank teller is not taking business today. So that's extremely frustrating to me. In that instance, either don't even express any opinion to me at all. If you refuse to engage with, especially if it's critical of me, I'm open to criticism. But if you're going to criticize core decisions and core life things, then be willing to stay there and explain yourself. If it's basically your intuition and your feelings that are suggesting, it doesn't feel right to me, I'm sorry, that's just not going to cut it. That's just not going to cut it.
I guess this is kind of related to that, but it's more like an emotional thing where it's just like, if there's something that has been bothering someone close to me, like my mother, for example, if she gets upset about something, she'll say her part, and then she'll say, I don't want to talk about it. And just try to drop it. I hate that shit. I cannot stand that shit. When they want to, offer their side or something, or their opinion, or, they'll bring up the issue, but then they'll just, immediately remove any of my participation.
Right.
I hate that shit.
Well,
I think it's F.I. Dom shit.
Yeah, it's an introverted feeling thing because they're thinking, I'm just telling you how I feel about it. You're thinking, this is your perception, which I'm supposed to be managing, and it's not where I want it to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so
I think
FEs,
I've done that.
yeah, FEs are you either have to change your perception, or you have to feel differently, or you have to argue, justify why you feel the way you do with reasoning. Yeah, but it's understandably frustrating for both sides because for our perspective, it's like you're being completely unfair. If you're an FI user and you're taking on a position that says,
well, I guess there's also a thing there, it's probably very difficult for them to vocalize that. It's probably difficult for them to even vocalize that they're upset in the first place, and the confrontation is just so overwhelming for them that it's hard for them to handle it.
Yeah.
I think that might be how it works.
I think that would only apply to people with FI in the higher step.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree.
Zach, we do that. We do that.
Zach Tech says I do that, so yeah, that's but see, and you'll note the nice thing
that's
about
what I was laughing at earlier.
the nice thing about Zach Tech's type is you don't have to do that with me and ENTPs because we're just like, okay, we just are unable and unwilling to fight with ISFPs, so whatever they say,
They'll
we
go
just
do
go.
some SE shit and get over it. That's usually what they'll do. They'll go do some SE shit and get over it. Go fucking draw a picture or something, right?
Right.
I'm just half joking.
I mean, I suspect that's probably true. They do go do some SE stuff to get over it.
How do INFPs deal with it then?
Oh, they.
They also
They
draw
speculate the
pictures.
possibilities of the ways they could deal with it, and they never do anything, right?
They withdraw, I think.
Yeah,
they
they probably
withdraw.
They just write it out.
Wait, say again?
They just write.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
They write? Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that is a good point.
They'll probably add you as an archetype in one of their books and just shit on you or something.
Well, you've been scheming against them the whole time, Zachary. That's why.
I can't help it.
Okay, so let's look at some other
TI is
types.
too conflictive.
So I think we can see that people's touchy spots often are going to come from 7 or 4. For me, I'd say it's hard to say one's touchy about. I'm not. If you say, "Well, you're not very in touch with your feelings, Eric," I'll say, "Thank you for noticing. I do enjoy that quality of myself." It's like I won't have a problem with it per se, but I might be touchy about other things. I think what I'm most touchy about is professionalism. When people call me unprofessional, I get really touchy about that. I don't like that word. It's too true. I hate the truth of it. It annoys the shit out of me. I always deny it vehemently. Other types we could think of might have fuzzy spots. I mean,
Wait, have we talked about INF?
have we talked about what?
Have we talked about INFJs?
Yeah, we just said they're writing, right? No, INFJs, right? INFJs,
I think
Yeah.
you criticize their TI.
right? That's where their touchy spot is, right?
Yeah.
Is it really?
It's their role function. That's why. I think
So if you like call them a pseudo-intellectual or something, they'll get pissed.
probably.
You know,
If-
they're
or
like, you said they're irrational or something like that.
if you intimate that they are anything less than just as smart as anybody in the world, then they don't like that. And the thing is, of course, they are just as smart. It's just they have their feeling-based framework. So it's like they operate in a smaller framing. They're not. They're adjudicating the world of people rather than of systems purely. And it's true, the overlap is massive. Very few systems don't have something to do with people. But being able to parse them as though they don't is what gives the TI certain advantages and certain disadvantages, But logical consistency is one of the advantages. If one...
I wonder how the NI-TI loop works exactly, because NI, according to Jung, the NI is what is constantly perceiving internal objects that manifest in the unconscious. So they have TI in their third slot, then they're probably building a logical structure out of that. I wonder what that's like. I wonder what it's like to experience that.
Well, I don't know what it's like to experience it, but I give you an
but the thing
example
is,
of
like,
an INFJ
but they're building
idea.
logical structure.
But look, here's an INFJ idea, right? Brooks suggested one good way to improve school attendance would be an interesting experiment anyway, would be to have Pokemon Go put a very high-level Pokemon in the cafeteria 30 minutes before school and see what that does to attendance rates. Now, that's a very clever INFJ idea, right? It's purely INFJ style idea because it's understanding the world and systems through human motivations. It's saying, I know how we can motivate a bunch of people. Let's do this. It's very clever. But notice that it's within frame, right? So the INFJ is perfectly fine with, on the one hand, advocating that we do X, Y, and Z, we improve schools. On the other hand, simultaneously pointing out, advocating that in the status quo there are systemic flaws in the education system, and there's no particular need for them to reconcile those things as logical systems with one another. They don't need to get down that deep because they understand that they're operating in a status quo world where people are motivated by existing structures. So since they're primarily concerned with the motivation, they default to accepting the existing structures as a starting point, which they see as whole truths. And if there's one thing that they're bad at, it's understanding that things change in the world, and that changes variables, and that causes realities to change, and that causes their truth, their decisions, their conclusions they've drawn to be invalidated if they haven't rechecked it in a while.
But, and also, wouldn't you say that your Enneagram type influences, I guess, which function is touchy in your stack?
I guess that makes sense for me. Well, enthusiast, unprofessional. Like unprofessional is the dark half of enthusiast. An enthusiast is somebody who is good at lots of things, but unprofessional means they're not really focused in a vocational way on one thing, like they ought to be.
Jack of all trades, master of none, basically.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if it would make sense in Zachary's instance because, well, I guess maybe it would. Researcher versus doer, or researcher versus mechanic, like theoretical physics versus engineering, like that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But theoretical physicists might complain, oh, well, you guys sit in a room and write down things on paper, but you don't actually do anything productive. Those guys over there are the ones making things. And then theoretical physics will be like, hey, that's not cool. You're going to say that to us. You know. Ami, what's your type?
My Enneagram type?
Yeah.
Okay, wait. 5.
Same as Zachary. How about you, Jay-Z? JC?
I think I'm a 7. I think I'm
Seven?
a 7.
You're like me, an enthusiast. Do you dislike being called unprofessional?
I acknowledge that I'm generally not very business savvy. I'm professional.
Okay. What other types? Well, let's talk about ESFJ, who tends to be pretty touchy about a lot of things, actually. I would say they're touchy about
Wouldn't it be their TI?
no, that's fourth slot, and they're okay with. They don't view themselves as smart. They're smarter than they view themselves as. They don't position themselves as smart, probably because they're FE DOMs, and they know that's not where they're going to make their FE hay.
Maybe if you tell them they're not, like, their advice isn't what's best for someone, maybe they might take offense to that.
Yeah, maybe. Or that if you tell them, you're not really helping him, you're hurting him when you do that. That's not helping him at all. That might
Yeah.
offend them.
Yeah.
But if you argue TE stuff, they get very offended and very stressed out.
Oh, really? Like if you bring up
Yeah.
facts or something?
Like, tell them that they're not being effective, or they're telling them they're being hypocritical by their actions. You're not following the theory that you are supposedly advocating. That stuff really angers them because they don't really know how to argue against it.
Basically a dominant TI or FI user.
Accurate. That sounds accurate for my ESFJ friend.
And they hate it if you're
I've never
proposing.
met an ESFJ. I thought my dad was one, but now.
If you're proposing some sort of.
What?
If you're proposing to them some sort of systems stuff, you got a big uphill battle. They don't want to hear about it, right? If you say, listen, Candace, what you're doing is great, but if you do this, this, and this, then we'll really be much better off. And it's not that hard, and I'll do it for you. They don't even want to touch that stuff. They don't want to even think about it. It's system shit, and they just don't want to. It's like, that's not what I have in mind. That's not what I'm doing. But the way you're doing it has a very low ceiling. Here's why, blah, blah, blah. The things are yammering them at TI, and they're just like, ugh. And then you're telling, okay, well then forget the TI. Here are the actions to take. Here's TE. That's even worse, right? That's hard. I hadn't thought about it that way before. That's crazy.
Oh, I only know because my friend is an INTJ and her mom is an ESFJ, and they have such struggles with each other.
Yeah, ENTJs and ESFJs don't usually get along.
I don't really understand why they're my dual. I feel like in theory I wouldn't get along with an ESFJ very well.
In theory, but in reality, they're incredibly nice and
Really?
very supportive, and they just have this wealth of emotional, I don't know, like a well that you just kind of get attracted to it immediately, and you don't know why. In reality, in theory, I wouldn't think I would get along with them either.
Well, it's like this. You know how, I don't know if you guys know this feeling or whatever. When I was a kid and things were different, there was this sort of notion that if you wanted to be successful in media of any sort, because there wasn't any internet, that the way to do that was to be discovered by somebody who would then be your manager, and they would make you successful by showcasing your talent, and then you'd be successful, something like that. It's an antiquated notion of how media makers ought to relate to the marketplace, but that's basically what an ESFJ does for you. Is if you have the right kind of ESFJ, and you have the right relationship, and you develop trust, especially for an INTP, she will make you her project and make you into beast mode version of yourself, provided she can listen about TI shit enough. You know, it's like that's why you got to establish the trust early on. If you let an ESFJ as an INTP, Zachary, if you let an ESFJ handle her shit, and concurrently, if you don't lead her astray with the TI and the TE, in other words, the reason why you need an ESFJ and why an ESFJ and ENTP are not long-lasting, quite well-suited enough, is you have to be more receptive to their guidance than an ENTP is. I think an INTP, as long as the guidance of the ESFJ doesn't tread on his territory, in other words, doesn't tread into concepts and ideas and abstractions and stuff, then he's very well suited to, and won't resent and will appreciate all the support the ESFJ will give him in terms of, when he does have an idea, helping to make that a reality. You know, that's why she's your dual. That's what she does. She helps make realities out of other people's actualization vacuums. You know. But we butt heads together.
Wouldn't a TE Dom be more equipped to translating TI stuff to a?
Because
I guess
that wouldn't work for you, because then you're not speaking the same language, right? They're saying, aha, here you say, here's something that's good and true according to TI, and they say, well, here's how you make good and true according to TE, and you're like, well, but there's all sorts of things in that TE that are not good and true according to my TI. So my original thing I gave you was good and true in TI, and then you fucked it up with your TE-ness and making it something different, and now I don't like it anymore. Whereas if it's FE, you go, oh my God, I'm so grateful to have you as my wife, because you can handle anytime I'm feeling like I don't want to deal with other people's apparently random behavior, then I'm going to just let you handle all the socialization, you'll do all the talking, you'll sort of prompt me, I can think in my head about my theories and shit, and everyone will like me, and I don't have to worry, I don't have to carry that heavy bag, because I'd rather not. For ENTP, it's not quite so heavy, but it's very, very weirdly shaped. It's like full of jagged edges and sharp points and stuff. The FE bag, you know. And then for ESFJ, she's fine with you being a little too shy. She's not fine with you being too much, because that is setting off all of her fucking 4-alarm fire bells with her FE, saying, awkwardness alert, awkwardness alert, you must shut Eric down immediately. That's why I need an ISFJ.
I like ISFJs. I would consider my uncle to be one of my best friends. He's an ISFJ. I like ISFJs.
Quadramates.
Me too.
ISFJ.
What'd you say?
What's touchy for the ISFJ?
What's
If you step on one of her values,
Yeah, definitely.
and she immediately will just turn the topic around and start talking about something completely different because she wants to get away from that.
Yes, that is so true. Holy shit.
My mom's an ISFJ. That's my mom's one. So that's exactly what she does. As soon as you step on one of her values that she really, really values, starts talking about something else. She does
It's not even, you don't even have to really like attack them. It's just as soon as you get into their value territory, they will swap out of it instantly. That is something that I've noticed happens a shitload.
Yeah.
If you to make them mad, simply try to pressure them into doing something they don't want to do. That's all you gotta do. It doesn't take a lot of pressure before they just go like, you know, like my mom used to go, no, 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 that's it. You know, if I'd like press on something.
Really?
Yeah,
I don't know. I think ISFJs they're the type, in my opinion, that would just like do it, but like kind of like be mad about it on the inside.
But
you
see,
know?
I'm talking about my mom. I'm a little kid. I'm trying to pressure her to let me go to some place where it's far away by myself on my bike. Like I'm, like 10 years old and saying, I want to ride down to Long Beach on my bike down Rosemead with my friends, and trying to push her into it, right? And being an ENTP, not knowing when to stop, having no idea when to stop at all, especially as a kid, just nonstop wanted to argue with my mom until she did that. Or until she gave in, you know. So that's probably why she did that. But that's one of those things that the ISFJ in a adult relationship rather than a parent-child relationship, the ISFJ helps the ENTP to understand without the ENTP feeling attacked. Because I think only ISFJ knows how to constrain the ENTP, not knows how to, but just naturally does, constrains the ENTP in a way the ENTP likes to be constrained. And so that's why I think we're a really good match, and I hope someday to find one. What are they touchy about? Yeah, like what you guys said. Anytime you trample on a core value, or if you try to push them too much to do stuff they don't want to do, they don't like that. I mean, nobody does, but some people are more tolerant of it than others. Any other types we want to talk about? Touchy spots for various types?
I can't think of any.
What other types haven't we talked about? We talked about ISTJ. ISTJ.
Yeah, let's talk about ISTJ.
I think touchy spot for ISTJ males anyway is competence at like mechanical stuff, which is kind of their strong suit. But so I don't know how touchy they are exactly at it. I think they might be touchy additionally about.
Hey, I was just gonna say we're going to McDonald's for coffee. Do you want coffee? And I'll bring. Well, are you gonna leave soon?
No, I'm not going anywhere. Can you also bring me a little sandwich or something?
Yeah, sure. You know what's funny? Really quick about last time when I got coffee is I actually forgot to order you a coffee and they gave me a coffee by accident for free. So that's a funny story.
Thank you, Delilah. Disagreeing with him about the proper way to do something. That's a good answer. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's so true for my mom.
Yeah, or like I would say, maybe compromising on what they feel is comfortable to them.
Say
Like they're
again?
forced to go out of their comfort zones. I think that's just an SI dom thing in general, you know?
Right. If you expect them to do stuff that you don't give them enough planning or you don't give them enough indication of what's going to happen, they rarely are not comfortable with that, especially if they have to do something work-related or deal with other people, stuff like that. So, they want a lot of specific instructions or to already know how to do it. They like doing shit they already know how to do. They don't mind repetition.
For sure, yeah.
I would also say about ISTJs, I don't know if they're touchy about it, but they tend to exhibit hypochondria.
How do you mean?
Like being worried about having this illness or that illness, or thinking things are wrong with them and there's nothing wrong with them.
I thought that was an NP thing.
You think it's an NP thing?
Sorry.
No, don't. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Like an N dominant. Like so, ENTP, ENFP. Isn't that something that you guys deal with?
I did when I was younger, when I was like from childhood through about early 20s. Then I outgrew it. I think it's because SI's in the fourth
I don't know
slot.
if this is an SI Dom thing. Oh.
Yeah, here's the thing.
SI DOMs tend to have that.
Because they're always in this world of their own body. So they're attentive to what it's doing very carefully. And if you get a twinge or a pain, they're keeping track of that shit. It's like they're keeping score. Oh my god, I had 7 pains in the leg today. Maybe. Just a theory. Just a thought. Any other type we haven't talked about that pops to mind before we... Oh, ENFP. What are they touchy about?
Being controlled, I guess.
Private or be controlled, or like someone who thinks they can. Someone who tries to control them if it's in a sense that's not aligned with their personal values. I think. I'm going to base this on my close friend and how he acts. I think, yeah, I would say that's probably the primary thing.
I think they're a little sensitive maybe about TI stuff because, I mean, they're not likely to get into a dispute about it at all. They're not likely to. I think they're very dispute avoiding, and I think that's primarily because they're not really sure what they think about things. But what I mean is, I think they're not quite sure what they've decided to think. What they've decided is their position about things. They know possible things that they think, but there's a difference between having in your head a bunch of possible positions that you're weighing against each other in some fashion versus having a set of opinions you ascribe to or affirm.
I think for NFs in general, though, they seem to be really very hung up on the word flighty. Everything I watch about ENFP, they're always trying to explain how they're not flighty, how they know they're being perceived as one, but they're being genuine, and they're just being nice to people, and they always explain away the whole flightiness thing. I think they really have an issue with that.
Well, what does flighty mean exactly? Irresponsible? Not reliable?
I guess flighty in the sense like kind of like that, unloyal, not really sticking to their decisions, sticking to their guns, type of thing.
Well,
Changing their minds easily.
Flighty too.
ESFP is flighty
does it
too. Is
bother-
that what you said, JC?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, ENTP is flighty too. But we're not exactly reliable.
But we're talking about what makes them touchy.
Right.
I
But see,
know
what I'm getting at is I don't think it's
Yeah.
exactly flightiness, the irresponsibility that they're really being touchy about, though that might be the word they're using. I think they're being touchy about their unwillingness to land anywhere. I guess maybe that's why it's called flighty, huh? Because they're flying a lot. That's interesting. I had never thought about that before. Yeah, I think they're sensitive about the fact that they're especially when they're young. Probably they're sure this time that one of those possibilities is shimmering extra bright is going to be the one they stick with, and then it lets them down at some point, and then they look for another one shimmering one to ascribe to. I think that sometimes they end up finding a specific set of truths that they adhere to, like Eccentric M has. Eccentric M self-identifies as Jehovah's Witness. Yeah, so flighty, that's a good answer, and the best word that I've been able to come up with is that one, so, I mean, I didn't come up with it, but I can't think of any better words, basically. So, flighty it is. They're sensitive about flightiness. And as the final type, ENTJ. Oh, we also have ENFJ. ENTJ, what is ENTJ sensitive about?
ISTP.
They're very sensitive in the sense that if you point out a flaw, ENTJ, if you point out a flaw about them and then don't give them a solution, they get very angry. Because they don't know what the problem, they don't know how to solve these problems because it's usually like feeling related, like you're not being nice, and then that's it, and so they don't know what to do with that information. They're just like, okay, so then how do I fix it? They're like, be nice, but that's not a good enough answer for them, so they get really
It's
stressed
interesting.
out.
There was a podcast I used to watch where one of the hosts, like, he always got super pissed because people would criticize him, but he would just go on these huge rants about how, like, if he got criticized, no one offers a solution or anything, and, like, he would just get super frustrated at that, and that totally is a
Yeah, I think it's a TE down thing where if you don't give them a solution that they can implement right away, they're just not going to listen to it, or they're going to.
Yeah, it's like, why are you wasting my time? Like, tell me this when I'm trying to improve it or something, you know?
Mhm.
Right. Like, I already realized that. Thanks.
No, the thing is, I don't think ENTJs would be aware of that because of their low FI.
Mhm.
So I
About
don't,
what?
so I don't even think they really notice their flaws, or at least they're not
They
aware of
don't.
it
They're not.
because they don't really think and contemplate about themselves really.
Hmm.
I mean, they do, but
That's
they
why,
do it in a way like, how do I make it more efficient? How do I achieve
yeah.
more things?
So that's why when you ask the ENTJ, like for example, how do you feel about something, they really can't answer that because they don't know. Or if you ask them like who you are, or, like what are your values.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that like ENTJs, if you ask them how they feel about someone, they'll have to sit and be like, well, the pros of this person are this, the cons of this, but they never give you any real clear answer about what they think.
Well,
Or they'll throw some like sarcastic thing. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, I might skirt around things like that too. It depends on kind of what it is. Like, I might go about a roundabout way of saying something.
But do you ever have trouble feeling something about someone or something? Are you going start skirting the issue because you don't want to hurt their feelings, or are you skirting it because you genuinely don't know?
It could be one or the other. It could be, like, sometimes it's, I don't want to hurt their feelings, and sometimes it's, I don't know.
Most of the time, when I talk to ENTJ type people or ESTJs, they really don't know.
I think I'm less likely to know about things like the things that you guys talk on this channel, where it's like weird principles and abstract type of foreign policies and crap and politics. Like, I don't know where I stand on any of that stuff. I'm more likely to know where I stand in a relationship with somebody.
ENFJ.
I don't know, I feel like my views regarding like political stuff and religious stuff is subject to change, so it's kind of like it's organic in a way, you know. ENFJ?
Yeah. I'll tell you an instance when Abraham got his feelings hurt was when we were driving back from a tournament. It was like one of the first tournaments he went to with us, and Kelly and I were joking about how terrible the judges he brought were. We were saying, I was like, Abraham, I thought you were going to bring me judges, not those fucking lay scrub things that you call judges. And I was just sort of being, ENTP rough. I was joking around with him, but I didn't realize that was going to hurt his feelings a lot. And it did hurt his feelings a lot, And as to why, I think is because he was trying to help, and he didn't feel like his help was appreciated or that I was valuing his contribution or something.
Yeah, maybe it's like challenging his judgment towards other people or something.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Any other thoughts before we wrap this
I don't
one
know
up?
if-
All right.
Yeah, I was gonna say for the two ENFJs that I know in my life, I would say their touchy point is when you point out their logical flaws. Like any type of logical flaw they have, they get really insecure about it.
Well, Abraham seems okay with that. He doesn't seem too distressed by that stuff. I do know that he doesn't choose to engage me in arguments about his leftist critical theory stuff much anymore. And in fact, I see it changing. He was arguing this thing the other night about intersectionalism, where basically arguing against the positions, some of the positions he used to advocate for. So, I mean, I do see growth in that area, and he doesn't seem particularly touchy about that. But that just could be him. I don't know. They've got this almost desperate need to be engaged with people all the time, preferably more than one.
Yeah.
And you might accuse me of that as well, but it's actually much different. Like, I spend long periods of time working in isolation without discomfort. He really can't.
Yeah, like my dad, he can't. I don't even think he can go like an hour without interacting with someone.
Really?
Yeah, it's always a constant need to
Is he
either be with
interested?
someone or interact. Yeah.
I mean, Abraham's the same way. He's at home at night, he doesn't have a car, and it's like the middle of the night and he's awake. He's Facebook messaging me. Or somebody else, I'm sure, as well. Probably multiple people. You know, meanwhile, I'm in the middle of something and it's like my phone's going, meh, 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 because, I'm trying to, I don't know, work on something, video editing or whatever. But what he's finding himself in is a situation where he is not talking to anybody at home. He's not engaged with anybody. And that caused him to go crazy. An hour is not a ridiculous thing to say at all. I think it's actually accurate.
Hmm.
A very short amount of time.
Okay. Well, JC, you're almost impossible for me to hear you. You're super quiet. But with that, I will say thank you all at home for watching Talk to the Famous People. Thank you for those in attendance for participating, and have a very pleasant Friday evening.